What's up, you guys? Welcome back to Kobe Clinton. So in this video, this is the part 2 of the e-commerce website with Django and Ajax instance. So we're working on the cart page now. So whenever you update a quantity, I want to make sure that it multiplies the price by itself and gives us the total by the side. And if we do that, the total gets updated, the cart gets updated without the page refreshing. So that's the goal of this video. So we're getting started right now. Okay, so what I'm going to do is simple. So now I'm going to do the same thing I did in the for the store.html, whereby I had to add these data products. So I'm going to copy this now, Ctrl C, and I'm going to paste down on the card.html where we have that input field. Okay, I've done that already, which is this. Okay, so we have it there, the product ID. So now what I'm doing now is I want to pick up these inputs, everything. I'm going to pick them up. So now I'm going to go down to our JS file now. I'm going to simply say let's input fields. So let's input fields. What am I doing? Let's input fields equal to documents dot get element by class name. It's going to be, so now we're going to get this input field by tag name, not class name. So that was a mistake, by tag name, and the tag name is input. So now after that, now we're going to add an event listener to this input field. So before we do that, we need to loop through the input field. So now let's loop through it. Let's simply say for let I equal 0, I is less than input fields dot length I plus plus. Okay, so that done. After I've done that, now we can add event listener to the input field now. So we're going to say input field square bracket I dot add event listener click. We're going to add a click event, add event listener. So we're not going to add a click event, we're going to add an unchanged event. So whenever the value in this field changes, something happens, understand? So now we're going to add an unchanged event. So we're going to simply say unchanged, not click. Sorry, it's going to be change, but it's called unchanged. No, click is also called unclick. We use click. So change, we're going to use change instead of unchanged. So now I'm going to run this function. Just simply say, I'm going to call this function updates quantity. Updates quantity. Okay, so that done already. Okay, so now I'm going to run this function at the bottom. I'm going to simply say function updates quantity. I'm going to give it this e parameter. So after we've done this now, so we want to send this data. We want to send this data to the back end. Indeed, this data and the ID of the products is working for to the back end. So now I'm going to do similar things we did the first time, whereby we create a new view. Something this view, I'm going to call this one update quantity. Then update quantity. So now I'm going to give it requests. After that, we're going to return the JSON response. Return JSON response, and after we've done this, we're going to also add, what was it called again? Let's say it's working. This is the response we get if everything works fine. I'm going to say it's working. Okay, let's see if this is recording. So, okay, it's working. So I'm going to simply say save equal to false. Okay, so now we're going to put a URL mapping for this particular view. So just similar to this one, simply copy this, Ctrl C. I'm going to simply paste there and call this updates quantity, and change this to updates quantity. Name of the view function will be updates quantity. So after we've done this, now we're going to now use a fetch API as we did for the first one. Okay, so move down to the cat.js file, and I'm going to use the fetch API as we did for the first one. So I'm going to simply copy the fetch API from here. Okay, I think I'll just copy this and let's paste it here. Okay, so now that's it for now. So after we've done this now, so once we get the data, we want to send to the back end. What are we sending to the back end? So let's get this data. So now I'm going to simply say what am I going to call this? So I'm going to the function here, the function just at the bottom here, and simply say let input value be equal to e.target. E.target refers to what you are clicking on. Whatever you're doing here, this is the e.target. Whatever that is being clicked upon, which is this stuff instead. So I'm going to say e.target data sets. Sorry, e.target value. So that's the value you want to send to the back end, and also want to also send the ID of the product. So we're going to simply say let's product ID equal to e.target data sets product. So this is what we are sending to the back end. So now after this, what we're sending. Okay, so I forgot to copy this. I'm going to also copy this to Ctrl C. Okay, so now we'll paste it. Okay, so set const data. So our product ID is going to be equal to, I'll simply call this, let's say PID, P underscore ID should be equal to product ID, which is what we have here. So now our input value, I'm going to call this, let's say val, does not interfere with JavaScript keywords. Let's say val, and I'm going to call this input value. So this is what we are saying to the back end. So now changing this URL to updates quantity, not updates cards. Updates quantity. So now after we've done that now, so just gonna look through it. So I think everything should be fine now. So for now, I'm gonna remove this stuff. It's not needed now. It's not needed here. So now let's see. Go down to the browser now. Open the console. So console. So refresh this page. Click on any of it. If it shows it's working fine, that means everything is fine. Okay, it says it's working, then there's no problem. So everything is working fine. So I think now we can send these items to the back end. Okay, so everything has been sent to the back end now. So go down to the views.py file, and I'm going to simply say let data is going to be equal to requests. So it's going to be equal to JSON.loads request.body. So going to be parentheses request.body. Okay, so that's it for now. So now after we've done all this, okay, so after now we're going to simply get the value. So now we're going to simply say, we're going to call this input value. Let's say input val should be equal to data square brackets quotation, and let's see what it's called here. I think I called it, okay, I called it val itself. You can see val going to the input value. So now I'm going to simply put val there, val. So now I'm also going to get the product ID. So I'm going to say product ID should be equal to data square brackets I call the key p underscore id. So now that's it now. So after that, I'm gonna copy this code now. If request dot user that is authenticated, I'm gonna copy this also. Control C. Okay, just copy this and simply paste down here. So if request dot user that is authenticated, so we did the same stuff we did the first time. We're gonna get the product by the product ID. The same thing, get the cards. If it's created, we get the existing cards. If it's not created, we're going to create a new card instead. This is for the card items. I think everything is working fine. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is this now. So, whenever we click on this, whenever we update the quantity of this stuff, I want to make sure that this gets to the back end instead. It's not going anywhere, it's just on the front end. So, what we are going to do is, so I'm going to simply just say cart items dot quantity. Cart items dot quantity should be equal to input val. And I think I'm going to convert this to an integer. It's kind of a string now, so I'm going to make it an integer to avoid errors. So int. So now cat items of quantity is going to be equal to input val. So I'm going to simply say cat items dot save. Whenever you update something, make sure you also save it. Cat items dot save. So that's all for now. I think that's all for now. Okay, so now let's see if it works. If I come down to this page now for the blue t-shirt, I'm going to increase the quantity to 9. So I'm going to go down to the back end now and see if it was actually included now. So this is the blue t-shirt. Refresh this page first. We have 3 items. Open the blue t-shirt. Oh, we still have 7 as a quantity there. It's not, everything is not working yet. Just hope there is no error. Set the cart items plus quantity should be equal to input val. I don't know where the problem is coming from. So let's see, let's check for errors. Go down to the page again. There's an error somewhere. Actually, the error is saying that we have a key error. This val seems it's a JavaScript keyword, so let's try and change it first and see if everything is going to work well. So I'm going to change this to, let's just say input underscore val. Let's just say in underscore val input value instead. So go down to the views.py and change what we have here to in underscore val. So let's see. So now I'm gonna refresh this page now, do the same thing. Still having an error. Okay, so okay, I've seen the mistake. The mistake is actually from this point here. I said e.target.input value. That's wrong. It should be e.target.value, not input value. We are referring to the value of the input field, so we're not going to put input there. So that's a mistake. So just save now. So save your work now. Refresh this page. As I said earlier, if I reduce this quantity to 9, if I make this quantity go down to 5, so I'm going to pick it down to 5. So it's now 5. So if I go, that's for the blue t-shirt. If I go down to the back end now, refresh this page around the blue t-shirts, you can see. Refresh this page. You can see now we have 5 quantities. It's now everything is being sent successfully. So now what we need to do is this now. I want to simply make sure this updates. So as we simply, this is what I'm talking about, as we update the quantity, it updates the total price by the right, and the grand total down here also gets updated with the items in the cart, everything getting updated without the page refreshing. So how do we go about this? Okay, so what I'll simply do is I'll simply create that same message variable I created in the first one. So now I'm going to simply try and get the quantity of the cart items instance. So I'm going to simply say quantity is going to be a string. Quantity is going to be equal to, or I can simply say subtotal. Subtotal should be equal to cat dot, what is it called again? Let's check. Okay, it should be equal to cat dot cat quantity. Cat dot cat quantity times the price of the products. Understand? So I'm making mistakes now. It's not cat dot cat quantity. Okay, subtotal should gonna be equal to the cart items. I think it should be cart items dot subtotal. That's what it should be. Okay, you're gonna say cart items dot subtotal. So I think that should work. Okay, now after we've done this, now the next step is to actually pick up this particular the div that is here. I want to pick it up, so I'm going to go down to the cart.html page. So here we are. So now I'm going to pick this. I'm going to give it an ID, I guess. So let's see if it already has an ID. Okay, I think there's a better way of doing this instead of using the ID. I'm going to simply do this now. Okay, I'm going to simply access the parent element of this particular field, which is the TD. This TD tag, which is the parent element. After I've accessed it, I'm also going to access the parent of this TD, which is the TR tag. So this is how we're going to do it now. So go down to the cart.js page, just at the bottom here. At the bottom, we're going to simply do that now. I'm going to simply say, I called it input value. So I'm going to simply say input value dot parent elements dot parent elements again dot children. So I want to get the child of this TR, this particular child there. So for the first one, has an index of 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So this particular child has an index of 4. So now I'm going to say the children square bracket 4. Understand? So I'm going to simply now do dot inner HTML. It's going to be equal to, it's going to be equal to, so I'm going to simply go down to that page again, cart.html, and I'll simply copy this. Let's copy, Ctrl C. It's going to be equal to, I'm going to put the backtip, paste that. So now I'm going to remove one rising JavaScript here, so don't need the double curly braces. So it's going to be equal to data.subtotal. Data.subtotal. So I'm going to remove this float format, that's for Python. So now data.subtotal, I think that should work. So I'm going to do dots. I want to make sure that it's also everything's going to be in two decimal places. So to do that, I'm going to simply say dots to fixed square brackets 2. Square bracket 2. Later the subtotal dot to fixed. So I think that should work. Just hope it does work. Okay, we've saved the page now. Refresh. So now let's increase the quantity. It says input value of parent element is undefined. Oh, what is the problem? Okay, input value that's okay. I get the problem. So I think we should. So since I've seen the problem, this input value is referring to the value of this particular field. So what I'm trying to get is not the value. I'm trying to get the field itself. So now to correct this, now I'm going to simply change this input value I have here to, let's say, should it be, so as I said earlier, it should be input value square bracket I, but we cannot access this I. We can't access the I, so we're going to simply use the e.target, which refers to what we are clicking on, right? So I'm going to simply say e.target.parent element, e.target parent element parent element. It refers to this is what we are referring to. So e.target is the input field, parent element is the TD, and the other parent element is the TR. So after we've done that, we have to access the last child of this TR tag. After we did that, we have to now overwrite what is inside of the last child to what we want in there, you understand? So after we've done all that now, so I think everything should be working fine now. Just save your page, save everything now, save it. So come down here, save your work. So try and increase the quantity. You still have an error. It says data.subtotal is undefined. Why is it undefined? So we have data.subtotal. So from our views.py, we have subtotal. Why is it? So back to the car.js. So I'm going to remove this dot to fix for now. Let's see what the problem is. So try and save. Do the same thing again. So try and increase. It's saying undefined. What is the problem this time around? Okay guys, we're having undefined here. I made the mistake. I shouldn't have made this mistake. Was just too careless of me. So just down here, I should have added this MSG. I should have replaced this. It's working with MSG, but I forgot. That's why we're having this error. So just add it now and save. I think everything should be working fine again. What we simply do is that we're trying to get the subtotal from the back end, and we are trying to add it down here inside of that particular field using JavaScript. You understand? So just save now. I think everything should be fine. Sorry for the mistake of wasting your time. So if we increase it now, you see, as we increase the quantity, it multiplies the price and the quantity and gives us the subtotal by the right. You can see everything is working. Do the same thing for this one. Oh, it's working, but at some point the decimal places exceed 2. So to stop this now, I'm going to simply come down here and add dots to fixed, square parentheses. I'm going to add parentheses of 2. I think it should solve the problem. So refresh the page, try it again. Never will it going to exceed 2 again. You understand? So that's it now. Make sure you add the dollar sign in front. Just yeah, I'm going to add the dollar sign. Most of you will not understand because we are not used to JavaScript, but as time goes on, get to understand JavaScript and Django together. So that's it now. You need to like update after you update the quantity, the price here gets updated. What's the problem? It gets updated. Yes, so now what we want to work on is the grand total. It's not getting updated, right? So let's do that right away. So just go back to the views.py file. Okay, so want to like update these guard totals. As long as we increase the quantity, the guard total still remains static, does not change. So to make that work, It's easy from what we've been doing. So now we're going to simply get the grand total. I'm going to create a new key. I'm going to call this, you can call it whatever you like. I'm going to call my grand total. Okay, so now, and we go down to the models.py. Under the cats model class, we have this function, grand total. This is what gives us the grand total of the cats. You understand? So I'm going to simply say cats.grand total. That should work. Simply say cats.grand total. You understand? So just do that. Yes. And after we've done that, now we're going to go down to the cats page. What we want to update is just particular field. This field that has an ID of total. I want to simply update the field, this particular field. So now go down to the cat.js file again, just under this one we just did, and so I'm going to get that field by the ID. Going to document.get elements by ID. I'm going to get it called, it's called total. I'm going to simply say .inner HTML. So once you like update the content of its inner HTML, .inner HTML is going to be equal to, I'm going to use this symbol, I've gotten it. So now we're going to simply put in the HTML tags from what we have here. I think it's currently the h3 tag. I think I should just copy it. I'm going to copy it, Ctrl C, and I'll remove what I don't need in there. So just copy, paste. So I'm going to remove this double curly braces, and I'm going to also remove this float formats to 2. I'm going to put in the to fix to 2. That makes it does not exceed 2 decimal places. Dots to fix. So now I'm going to call this, so you can see it's called cat.grand total. So I think everything should work here. So just come down here again, refresh this page. Okay, you can see if I reduce the quantity, so now just watch, if I update this quantity, this cat total is going to get updated also without the page refreshing. So update this, update it. It does not work, that's no problem. It says cat total is undefined, grand total is undefined. So check your views.py, call it grand total. So set cat dot grand total from the models.py, grand total, but it's still not working. I think it's a minor issue. So we said cat dot grand total. Why aren't you working? So I have some, what's the problem? Remember id.inner HTML h3 cat.grand total to fixed. Oh, sorry, it should be data and not cats from here. Data, understand? I don't know why it should be data. I hope you saw the mistake. Making silly mistakes. So data, so come back to the page again, refresh. So try and update any of the quantities. You see, as you do that, the total gets updated. Try for anyone, the total keeps getting updated. It keeps getting updated. You see, so I'm going to do the same thing for this one. It keeps getting updated without the page refreshing. That's Ajax for you. Thanks to Ajax for this. So now I'm going to add the dollar sign in front of this total now. So let's add the dollar sign. So just come here and just append the dollar symbol. So I think that should be fine. So come back here, refresh the page once more. So everything is refreshing real time, no refreshing of the page, but everything is working. Data means to the back end, back to the front end, everything is working. Okay, so now I'm able to achieve this. Now the last thing I want to do now is make sure that as we update this cards, I want to make sure this our cards up here also gets updated. So it's kind of same is well, I think we can do this now. So just simply go down to this views.py file. I'm going to just say cards. We're going to simply call this quantity. I just say quantity. that's the cart's quantity. Cart's quantity is gonna be equal to, we're gonna simply come down to our models.py file. Where do we make the quantity? Okay, the cart's quantity is gonna be equal to the cart's quantity. Go down to the views.py and say cart's quantity. So save your work now. Now after we've done this, we need to also make sure we get these carts. In the base.html, the cart has an ID of cart. Go down to the cart.js file, and just at the bottom of this one, we're going to simply say documents.getElement by ID. We're going to say carts. Let's say .inner HTML is going to be equal to. So I'm going to simply go down to the base.html now and copy the inner HTML of what we have there. So Ctrl Z, Ctrl Z. Okay, now I'm going to simply copy this, Ctrl C, and paste down here using the tick tape. I can't remember the name, so just paste. Okay, remove one of those curly braces. We really need one, and put in this dollar sign. This is what we call template literals. I didn't mention the name since that's part of me. I'm going to simply put this to data. That's cart's quantity. So everything gets updated. Just watch the browser again, refresh this page, close this. So you can see we have 9 items. So if I increase this to 2, oh, it says undefined. Hope I've not made another mistake again. I've made, okay, let's see where the problem. Document get element by ID. Okay, it said data dot cart's quantity. It's not cart's quantity, rather it is quantity. Okay, so save your work, refresh. So try and increase this. You can see it gets updated. Everything gets updated. It gets updated. Reduce it. It gets updated. Everything is working fine. I really hope you did enjoy this video. Like we were able to work on this particular page, able to update the carts without the page refreshing, update the cart itself, the cart item up here. Everything is just working fine. So if you want me to make a video on how to integrate the payment section with PayPal, I need to see your comments in the comment section. So if I get enough comments, I'm going to make sure that I'm going to make the video this week. So thank you for watching. If you really gained value from this video, do it to subscribe to my channel, and don't forget to smash the like button. We'll meet in the next video. Stay blessed. I wish you Merry Christmas. Bye bye.